Are you wondering how the current tariff chaos will affect flight ticket prices going forward? With oil prices dropping, your dream trip might be getting more affordable. So is now the right time to book, or should you wait a bit? Well, it's complicated, but if I were you, I wouldn't wait too long. The travel industry could face disruption, and trade barriers like those recently rolled out by the U.S. government are bad news for the manufacturing sector, which includes aviation giants like Airbus and Boeing, as well as hundreds of their global suppliers. In this video, I'll take a closer look at the downstream effects of these developments on the broader airline industry and the tough choices carriers now face. As I mentioned before, I generally try to stay clear of politics on my channel, but it's impossible to ignore such a major story affecting commercial aviation. Crises in aviation.
The point here is that with the current flip-flopping,
events like 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, and the pandemic were all devastating. But even smaller economic tremors can destabilize the sector. All it really takes is a bit of financial uncertainty. We're recording this in mid-April, shortly after the U.S. president announced a 90-day pause on tariffs for most countries.
the US president has been talking about how he loves tariffs for a long time by now, but
such as aluminium and steel. A 10% tariff on all countries, except North Korea and Russia, also remains. The takeaway is that this flip-flopping leaves analysts and business leaders unable to forecast with confidence, and that kind of uncertainty is a major headwind for airlines. Air travel, particularly for leisure, is usually one of the first discretionary expenses people cut when the economy turns shaky. That's why the airline and hospitality industries are often the canary in the coal mine, signaling broader economic trouble ahead. So what happens if this continues long enough to trigger a full-blown trade war and even a global recession? The reality is that most airlines operate on razor-thin profit margins, constantly balancing fleet planning, route efficiency, maintenance, and more to stay competitive. One immediate challenge, as discussed in our previous video on tariffs, is the procurement and delivery of new aircraft. Despite the U.S. president's long-standing support for tariffs, many in the industry hoped aircraft might be exempt. But airline lawyers and accountants have long been poring over old contracts to understand their obligations around tariffs, import duties, and similar costs. While the importing company is typically responsible for tariffs, one airline executive told the Air Current that if there's no tariff clause in a price contract, good luck passing those costs along. Delta CEO Ed Bastian echoed this, stating during an earnings call that Delta wouldn't pay tariffs on new aircraft, shifting the burden elsewhere. Delta has been receiving Airbus aircraft, but now plans to delay further deliveries, even at the cost of paying penalties. Aircraft manufacturers have sharp legal teams too, so expect plenty of legal battles over these old contracts. And remember, most of these contracts were signed 5 or even 10 years ago, given how long the delivery backlog is for popular models like the A320 and 737. These issues extend beyond just the aircraft themselves. Spare parts contracts also come into play, critical for manufacturers, airlines, and maintenance firms already under stress from post-pandemic engine repair delays and supply chain issues. Airbus, anticipating potential tariffs, has said it might prioritize non-U.S. airline customers. When the 3-month tariff pause was announced, it created a scramble. Some airlines rushed to take delivery of aircraft while they still could, and others started eyeing used aircraft or models already ordered through leasing companies. However, it's unlikely that many leased planes coming from Airbus or Boeing in this window are still without an assigned operator. Tariffs, or even just the threat of them, also create a host of short-term headaches. For instance, I was supposed to introduce a sponsor here, but they pulled out just hours before this video went live. That kind of thing really hurts our team, which is spread across the globe and relies on sponsor support. So to everyone supporting us on Patreon, thank you. You help us stay independent and able to cover sensitive topics like this. If you'd like to join, you can scan the QR code on screen or go to patreon.com/join/MenuRPilot. We got a Zoom hangout coming up soon, and I'd love to hear your questions and feedback. Also, if you prefer podcasts, check us out on Spotify. Now back to the topic. Another short-term issue is fuel and fuel hedging. For many airlines, jet fuel can represent 20 to 30% of operating costs. to guard against volatile oil prices. Airlines often lock in a fuel price in advance through hedging. But if an airline hedged fuel before prices dropped, something that's happened recently due to recession fears, it can take full advantage of the low